What's up, my bodacious little blood oranges? This is Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, and today on The Snapshot, we are spreading our seed far and wide when we get our hands dirty with the Pathocyst. Now, you can pick up the Pathocyst blueprints as well as the rest of its parts from the Emissary Derelict Assassinate. Now, I'll actually go ahead and leave a link up in the top corner as well as one down in the description box below, because I went ahead and posted a video that has the details of the boss fight as well as how to get the keys to get into the actual mission itself. But there are a couple things that I definitely wanted to note. Now, it seems that this mission type is directly linked to this episode of Nightwave, and that actually ends on October 13th. After that, I have absolutely no clue where this is gonna go or when it's gonna make a reappearance, but do not worry because all of the parts are currently tradable, so you should be able to pick up anything that you may be missing from Trade Chat. Just do be aware it does require Mastery Rank 9 in order to craft, so get it while you can. Maybe you'll see it again in the future. I don't know. Okay, so one more thing before we take a look at this on paper. I'm actually going to go ahead and leave a link to the Wiki down in the description box below, just in case you're watching this from the future and want more insight as to where it's gone or if it's currently available at all. Now, as you can see, the Pathocyst, each strike of this infested glaive infects its targets with viral pathogens. Occasionally, it discharges the spores of rabid enemy-seeking maggots either in flight or on contact with the enemy. So whenever you throw this or whenever you strike an enemy with it, sometimes it'll leave this little puddle on the ground where a little baby maggot comes up and jumps on an enemy and kind of CCs them. It's very, very similar to Nidus's ultimate. However, do keep in mind, these maggots don't count as those maggots, so you won't get any stats from them, and this also does not work with the strain set. Tested it with Nidus personally, but I did get insight from somebody on staff saying that it's not supposed to be working with the strain set. But in a beautiful, wonderful world, wouldn't it be kind of cool if it did? I'm just putting it out there, just saying. Sometimes you gotta have a little bit of fun with these things, right? Now, stat-wise, it's very, very interesting. As you can see, its attack speed is painfully slow. It's at 0.667. There is a workaround on that, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But its critical chance is only at 15%, which is a bit on the low side. However, its critical multiplier is 2.1 times, so that's actually not too bad. Now, its status chance and its IPS spread is really, really interesting because it's actually got a 30% status chance, which means that if you toss on all 4 status elemental mods, you can bump this to 100%. You don't need to. I'm just personally saying that. But its IPS actually includes viral, which is weird because you can't call it IPS. It's got to be IPSV to include the viral part. So you have 4 different damage types on this, which means it's going to work really, really well with condition overload. Now, the thing that kind of makes it all interesting is this is the highest base damage of all thrown melee weapons. But when you look at its throw stats, that's where things start to shift, all right? I actually went ahead and compared this to the Glaive Prime, and its base throw damage is 285, right? However, if we take a look at the Glaive Prime, its base throw damage is 425, which is crazy because this weapon on its own has an 82 base damage while the Glaive Prime's base damage is actually lower. So this has more in its melee damage and less in its thrown. So its thrown charge throw is 785 versus the Glaive Prime's 960. So you can see where the disparity lies. The melee is truly where this weapon is going to shine as opposed to its throw, which is a little bit on the weaker end of the spectrum. They've kind of like skewed the stats to kind of give you a clue as to how to roll with this weapon. And I actually wanted to go ahead and show that off real quick. So, first thing that I wanted to go ahead and address is the slow attack speed. It's painful when you're just using it on its own. So as you can see, this is with Prime Fury. It does not feel good. It feels really, really slow. It's sluggish. So it's not absolutely fantastic when it comes down to that. However, it's really, really interesting because it seems like the equalizer of many of these weapons is when you actually go ahead and toss it onto a dual wielding combination. So as you can see right here, look at how much faster that is. it feels so much faster when you're using it with a secondary weapon. So it's like DE is giving you all of these clues as to how they want you to use it. All right, so I've gone ahead and spawned up our typical Billy. I'm gonna go ahead and toss out a couple throws real quick so that you can see our little baby spawn. So you can see a little maggot over there. He jumped on him. Get him, boy. You can get him. And here's another one. We've got two there. Just be aware that they are very much killable. They're keeping him busy right now, which is always nice. Now, I'm going to do my best to try to knock him off of the edge, or to try to not knock him off of the edge, I'm sorry. But we don't know if that's going to happen, but as you can see right there, expired. He's dead. He's gone. So we've been able to knock him out pretty quickly with melee just on its own, but where this weapon really shines is when you start combining it with condition overload pairings. So right now I'm running with Slash and Viral on this setup, which is kind of just basically its base stats just pumped up a little bit more. But my Maradetron, it's got some corrosive in there, it's got some blast in there. So we've got multiple elements kind of going on. And you notice how he just kind of evaporated? I believe that was 6 hits. And he was absolutely gone, which is actually really, really nice and kind of puts a different spin on thrown weapons, because technically you can throw this weapon, but you don't necessarily feel like you need to throw this weapon in order to get the most out of it, because I've definitely played around with the Glaive Prime before, and I'm like, yeah, you kind of got to get some headshots with it. You got to kind of apply some status stuff. Let's go ahead and take on 2. Look at that. Let's go ahead and get our melee on and see how fast we can. Like, with all of the slash procs that can come off of this thing, it's kind of amazing. Like, look at, it's actually really freaking good. And you get to roll with your babies while you're at it. It's nice to have something that is fun and actually functional. Now, of course, I would say one thing about this. There are other melee weapons that you could also pair with this in kind of like the dual mode that will get similar effects. But you can see, I mean, we're taking on level 165s, and you're not usually going to be taking on level 165s with a lot of weapons. So for this to be effective and also have a really, really cool little attachment to it, it's definitely a nice addition to have to your arsenal. And I have to say that I quite enjoy the modeling of it. I know some people are saying it looks like an infested seahorse, but to me it looks kind of like a badass boomerang, which I kind of like. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build. Again, this is just what I've been playing around with. Feel free to make modifications where you want to. There's one big one that I've actually gone back and forth with a lot. So as you can see right here, I am doing a hybrid build where I am using Prime Pressure Point. We have Prime Fury on there to speed it up. You could put in Berserker if you want, but as many of you guys know, I don't like the speeding up and slowing down. I'd rather prefer a consistent speed so that I can continue with my combos instead of feeling like, you know, I'm all over the place. I hate that like slow start. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about for everybody? Get a little slow start. In addition to that, you do have Condition Overload to make the best use of all of the status. We've got Drifting Contact on that as well to bump up the status, but also allow you to kind of rack up your melee combo counter, which works really well with Blood Rush and Amalgam Organ Shatter. Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember if Charge Attack Speed affects the throw on this. I believe it does. I'm not really that, like, listen, if it doesn't, then I'll put on regular Organ Shatter. It's not, but I figured, listen, this exists, I might as well use it. Then we have Vicious Frost and Virulent Scourge, which again is going to add into the viral. I really just wanted to capitalize on the slash aspect of this and really go in with the viral, impress that in, and then let the IPS shine. However, I have also tried dropping Amalgam Organ Shatter and putting in Buzzkill to pump up that slash even more so that we can get a lot more of that flash rocks. But you are giving up the critical damage multiplier, which, you know, part of me is like, it's here. The critical multiplier did get a nice little bump. We might as well make use of it. Listen, do with this as you wish. I feel like they performed very, very similarly. It's completely up to you how you handle this. I do have one thing to say though, because I always get this from people. Well, you could equip it on a Valkyr. You could equip it on a Wisp. You could equip this on like a Vault, and that'll solve your attack speed problems. I'm like, yeah, but that solves the attack speed problems for everybody. That's the way that I always put it. And that's exactly why I also wanted to mention the fact that, you know, you can use condition overload on other weapons and also pair them up with melee that go well with it too. So part of me is along the lines of kind of like, listen, like, you can pair those up with anything and they'll improve anything. I usually like to just judge the base weapon. However, DE clearly had a very definite stance as to how they wanted this weapon to be used, just with the way that they positioned the stats. So for me personally, I actually think it's a pretty fucking good addition. It definitely sliced and diced more than I thought it did. I thought it was a little bit gimmicky when I straight up played with it, but I do like the dual wielding, and I hope that this means that they're edging a little bit closer and closer to Melee 3.0. Listen, I need a bit of a distraction. I need some joy in my Warframe life, alright? Bring it! I need it! Regardless, let me know how you guys feel about this weapon down in the comments below. Are you interested in weird ways that DE kind of like lets you know? Stat-wise, maybe you should use your weapons like this? Toss that down in there as well. So as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!